What's up, fellas? This is Sam with the Rebirth vlog. We are in episode 5 now. I'm not sure if I release all the other episodes publicly, but for sure on my Patreon I will release all of them. Let's talk a little bit about some cool shit. I even did a small list today. So I just came from the bath, not really, like maybe half an hour ago, just after I woke up and took my ice cold shower, because this is day 5 of my cold exposure experiment, where I am jumping into ice cold bathtubs or taking ice cold showers, sometimes multiple times a day. Like yesterday I took twice, one ice cold bath, a cold plunge basically, and then in the afternoon I felt like taking a cold shower. Now what I'm doing is I'm actually waking up and I jump immediately under the shower. And since this is day 5 now, I really feel that it becomes easier and easier and easier. Today was super easy, and also I am deliberately prolonging the exposure, because the effect is stronger if you prolong the exposure time, obviously. So if you take a 10-second cold shower, that really does a lot less, in my opinion, than something like maybe 2-3 minutes, something like that. Then you have this super amazing sensation in all your body, and especially on all your skin. Your skin feels activated. It's kind of burning, but you also feel it's like getting flushed with blood. It's amazing. So this stuff, people really underestimate cold exposure, and I'm so happy that I started to experiment with this, because this has effects on everything what I'm doing. Also, for example, on exercising. It's just like you're getting used to appreciate pain, because in the end the normalization of pain can lead to dopamine stabilization. So pain decreases dopamine, but controlled pain and pain release stabilizes dopamine. So what else we need to talk about? Album progress. The Rebirth album and TGL is basically around the corner. The music is almost ready, but I really want to give this album everything what it deserves. Like every piece of art should have everything what it deserves done for it, so that it can fly, that it can not only survive, but that it can fly, ideally. You need to give it all its chances to make it fly. Instead of, rushing it, I decided to go for a release date for Rebirth, not talking about TGL, that's another story, but for Rebirth, Evernoise Rebirth, I will release on 1st June, as for now. There will be an official statement about that released soon, but this is what I think right now is realistic. I think I found the artist, although it's really complicated because it's a new musical approach, so I feel like that I want that to be reflected in the artwork as well. And as always, it's complicated, but I found a great artist, and there is a whole timeline, structured timeline of, how the whole thing should proceed from now on, like to release. And I want to do a couple of promotional things. I want to set up the pre-order also for the physical edition, of course. There will be a limited physical edition that will be super, super, super limited, as always, as last time. And then that's about that. Music is mostly done. Now there is like kind of, how to say, you go one time over everything, do the final decisions, finalization of the final, you can call it like that. That is done now, but there is so much time for that. So first of all, of course, artwork is the most important, because everything is based on that artwork. If I don't have the artwork, then I cannot really do the proper announcement and promotion. Everything is just based on the artwork. And I don't think that I want to do a pre-artwork or something like that. So, yeah, the camera is still recording because it was screwing me up a lot lately by shutting off for various reasons, either battery related or SD card related. Yeah, that is about Rebirth. Then what else do we have on our neaty list? Yeah, 13 Monkeys. My dog my dark side project and forest project. And we are working, Dendro Music and myself and Grow Arc from Brazil are working on an album which is like kind of a three-way collaborative album, and that is called VA Ancient Future Rituals. The name is by myself, and it's consisting out of a couple of verses track in between us three, and then each of us is also putting solo work in that. This is something that I have to work on today again, very important. I'm so bad in this, unfortunately. When I have to do something, then I want to do something else. It's such a huge problem. I'm working on that. So, that stuff is super exciting. It's really, really nice dark side. And I can't wait to share that with you. Maybe I will even put a little bit in this video, let's see. Then, seeds. Yeah, musical seeds. It's funny because I'm actually in a moment of production where I need to focus on finalizing 2 albums and getting them out and not focus on seeds. But nevertheless, I'm doing it. But let me explain first of all what seeds are. Musical seeds are short ideas, snippets, formulations that can be anything, you know? Like it can be only a little bit, it can be a little bit more. But usually there are like small ideas, musical ideas. And this is a way of experimenting and finding new ways to express yourself basically as a musician. And just see what is there, what is your palette basically. And it has many, many, many reasons. It's basically the same process as sketching. I think many people know that it's quite common for musicians, even myself, to, you know, start a track and then immediately go into that track. But does that really make sense? Does the concept of making a lot of ideas, choosing the best idea and delving into that idea, it's just a way better concept. And this concept I have from Rubin. And by now, probably a lot of you people know who Rubin is. Rubin is one of the most legendary music producers of our time. Weirdly though, he doesn't even know how to produce music. He has very rudimentary knowledge about the production of music actually, and about the complexities of music theory or the complexities of music production, which is fascinating to me. I just found that out yesterday. I would not call him a music producer actually. I would call him a spiritual birth helper for creativity / music in that specific case. And I started yesterday to read a little bit of the first chapter. I'm going to read the whole book, of course, The Creative Act by Rubin, because that is a manifesto about creativity. He's in that weird spot. Rubin is in that amazing, unique spot, like in between everybody. Like he's not the composer, he's not the instrumentalist, he's not in my opinion, not the producer. Because if a producer doesn't have, you know, Butch Vig, that's a producer, okay? Shep, that's a producer. Or what was he called? Chaps? I don't know. Those guys are producers that actually they know how to use an EQ and compressor, etc. Rubin does not. And that's quite amazing to me, because I understand what he's doing and what incremental part in the creative process in the projects that he collaborated with he took. But it was not neither the real creative part in that sense. He's more a spiritual leader than a creative in my opinion, although he is very creative. So, first chapter, first impressions. The first thing that he talks about in this book is that basically we are all artists, okay? And that's a very interesting concept to me that is a bit foreign actually, as a person who always kind of saw a separation there. I always saw a separation because my grandfather, who was a respected painter and art professor, he explained it to me like that. Let me explain it to you in his words. That basically society is a clockwork, and every person out there usually takes a certain part in that clockwork as a specific cog in that clockwork, making the clock spin. But the artist is kind of useless. He doesn't make that clock spin. He's kind of, supplementary. He's like at the side. He would also be the first thing cancelled in case of emergency. Let's say there's a war. Artists become kind of useless. Except for propaganda, maybe. So that's how he explained it, and of course, I was a little bit informed by that. Although I didn't even see him so many times in my life, but when I saw him, like especially the last time before he died, he told me a lot about his time in the concentration camp, and a lot about art, because I was studying art, and of course I was informed by that, no question. Yeah. So, Rick Rubin, the creative actor. I'm gonna read more. I find him fascinating and very inspiring, and I find the idea of seeds also. I have it from Rick Rubin. I mean, like, he didn't invent the idea of musical seeds, because you could also call them musical snippets, musical sketches, and sketches certainly is a word that I used before, but the specific context is like, like setting up the production of a musical project or an album or something like that into different phases. It makes so much sense. First, you're in a seeding place where you are like putting out a lot of ideas and experimenting. Then you focus on those ideas who make the cut, and it's just brilliant. It's so simple, and obviously that's the way to go. Then, guys, this is really important. I have a Patreon account. You will find a lot of cool content there already, and I'm gonna make a new Patreon drop soon with a lot of stuff like the most killer tracks, unreleased tracks, music videos, travel videos, behind the scenes stuff. Please check it out and consider supporting me there. It's like I think 3 euros is the lowest tier. Those 3 euros go a long way to support me with what I'm doing. So I would suggest you that you maybe head over there and check it out. Like, for everyone that, want to support the creation of culture. So, what else is on my neaty little list? The Uberman Podcast, guys. The Uberman Podcast. I want to quickly talk about that. Let me see if the camera is still running. Oh my god, it's still running. Wow. But we have 2 minutes left. Uberman Podcast is something that I recommend you. It's a professor of ophthalmology and another thing, and he provides science-based knowledge about basically self-improvement a lot for free on his YouTube channel, the Uberman Lab, and I can really recommend it because it's chock full of information that you will want to improve your own life, and it's absolutely cost-free. Those things are just like knowledge-based, so like, okay, which foods help cognitively, which practices help you to motivate or to regulate your dopamine so that you don't even have to, encounter something terrible such as depression or other psychological illnesses. So it's really, really great. There's one caveat from my perspective, but that's just my perspective. I'm not saying that I'm putting out the ultimate truth here. I'm just saying that I'm not the super biggest fan of all those supplements, and he's a guy that is into that. And I really believe in getting as much nutrients from natural food as possible. Okay, guys. Uberman Podcast, I also talked about Rick Rubin, I talked about the cold exposure, I talked about my album, I talked about, and my Patreon. I think that's it with the little Rebirth Vlogcast episode 5. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you're really, really well. I wish that at least a couple of people would try the cold exposure, cold plunge or cold shower that I'm doing. I do it nevertheless, of course. I said in a video before that I don't need anyone, to do something like that. I just need myself, and I'm going to do this for 30 days, and I'm probably going to implement it forever. That's really, really likely. But let me know, maybe you have experience with cold plunge or with cold exposure or with any of the other things that I was talking about or are interested in that, then let me know in the comment section below. Also, as I said, would be super, super greatly appreciated if you check out my Patreon. I didn't really promote it at all, but I want to build up that Patreon, so if you feel inclined to support me there, it would be hugely appreciated. And more than that, head over to my website www.parandroid.net to find a lot more interesting stuff about my work and a lot of other things. There's also blogs and travel reports, many things, photos, videos, etc., music and stuff for music producers as well. And I hope to see you in the next one. That's about it. Cheers, guys. I see you soon.